Namaskar and welcome to MV Sakhya. Today we have two people who are going to be talking about a person very dear to their heart. This person came to the US in the 60s. Uh, my friend Medha Gavankar, who you can see on the screen. Medha, can you wave out? And her cousin, Riva Kamat. Both of them are here to talk about Riva's mother. So we are going to go a little bit more into that, but just a little story from my end before. So every time I used to call Medha, ki, like मी तुझ्या घरी येऊ का आज मला दुपारी यायचंय का काय and Medha will be नाही नको नको ह्या शनिवारी नको येऊ विनय आणि मी व्हर्जिनियाला जातोय. And after a couple of times, I'm like, तू एवढं का जाते व्हर्जिनियाला म्हणजे who is this Maushi? And slowly I learned a little bit about Medha's Maushi. And then I think the last year was a very tough time for all of you, Riva. Not the last year only, but the year before that also. And I learned a little bit more about her. And I thought, this is such a nice feel-good story to talk about. A woman who is so strong. And this is perfect for our Marathi Vishwa Sakhya platform. So a woman's life journey is so distinctly divided in our society. First you are under your parents' roof, you get married, you are with your husband, then you have kids, you take care of your kids. After, what after that also? So this story is from the perspective of a person who emigrated to the United States in the 60s. And because and I know Medha, you also came in the 90s or maybe in the late 80s, our life story was a little different. The decades did mean uh, a lot of different experience for different people coming in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So today, Priya is going to be talking about her mother, Dr. Priya Kamat. And I understand she had, Priya, she is a highly educated woman. I should not say was. Her mother is currently, Riva will tell what her mother is doing currently. But I understand she had a PhD in biochemistry, correct? From Mumbai, from Wilson College, I understand.
Yes, she did. She did. So she came here in the 60s. And first of all, thank you for having Medha and I on. We are so happy to be here and share amazing stories. And it is wonderful that you're sort of passing along sort of legacies and stories to others, because I truly believe we come from a very, very strong line of women, and we stand on the shoulders of many, many women who have come before us, who have taught us well, and who are just, I think everybody would agree that they're a hardy stock of women. They are very hardy.
No, and what is more interesting also is because our current vice president also, the mother also came to the country in the 60s, I think. So I thought this was a very good story to catch up on, like how people who came in the 60s, they had, what kind of experience they had, and how their contributions have impacted or affected the current generation also. Both of you have learned a lot from Riva, your mom. So that's what, so can you just explain or talk a little bit more about your mother? Like where was she born? When did she come to the country? What was her education? Let's start with that.
Yeah, so she was born in India, in Mumbai, and she finished her undergraduate in India, in Mumbai, and then she got her PhD in biochemistry at Wilson College. And talked very, very highly about that college and loved that college. She came to the United States in 1965, maybe 1965, somewhere around there.
66.
66. Thank you, Medha. 66. I told you Medha knows much more about this than I do. 1966. And she had just married my dad, and both of them came together as postdoctoral students and did their postdoctoral work in Indiana, in Bloomington, Indiana.
Okay. Wow. 1966. That's, that's way back, way back. So I understand you were born after that. Were you born in Indiana, like during the postdoctoral or after that?
Yes, I was born in Indiana about a year or so after that.
Okay. So did your mother continue? Like, did both of them, your father and your mom, did they both finish their postdoctorals at that time?
They did. And then she went on to do some teaching in Indiana as well.
Okay. Okay. Um, so my next question is, like, does your mother talk about, I'm pretty sure she must have ki amcha kari he navta and all that, but uh, does she talk about her previous experience? Like, what made both your parents come? Like, let's start with that. What prompted them to, like they're highly educated people in India at this point, right? If they have PhD, what made them decide to emigrate to the US?
I think just like many other immigrants, they came looking for a better life, right? They came looking for opportunities, and they knew they wanted to have a family, and they wanted their children to grow up in the US.
Okay. So Medha, तुला काय तुझ्या मावशी तुला काय म्हणाली when you came here, like, what did she feel about leaving her family kind of behind in that day and age when, it's not possible to jump on a plane and go back to आता कसं पुणे मुंबई सारखं झालंय. People just drop things and go back to India, at the drop of a hat. But at that time, it was such a calculated move to, make sure you have money and all. And I know your mother was younger to her. Your parents were still alive. So it must have been, a big wrench for her also to leave them behind.
Yeah. No, she, her first sentence to me when I told her I'm coming to America, बरं झालं, आता तू इकडे आली, was her first thing, बरं झालं was her first remark. And माझ्या आईचा remark असा होता, तिकडे जातेस ना, मग ठीक आहे, प्रमिल आहे. That was her thing. So it was, I think on both sides, they were comfortable that I had Mamaushi here, and my Maushi was happy that I was there, like माझ्या आईची मी representative असं काहीतरी तिचं हे होतं. Yeah.
Okay. So again, back to you, Riva. Tula, I know they must have had a hard time because, people who came at that time, you barely had any money. Then, if you're doing postdoctoral, you're not really getting too much money also. Did they talk much about it? Like how, what was their journey, the initial journey? What kind of hardships they faced at that time? Do you have any recollection? Question goes to both of you. Like, Medha, तुला पण काय म्हणाली असेल का की मला कोथमीर नाही मिळायची,
Yeah. That I remember. There were no Indian stores around. So एक पटेल ट्रक घेऊन यायचा कुठे कधीतरी once a month, आणि they would get तुरीची डाळ and things like that. कढीपत्ता वगैरे was unheard of. ती म्हणाली we just didn't get that. Even आता because like कामत काका आणि सगळे they are from Goa, so खोबरं लागतं जेवणात खूप. So for her, coconut was a big issue. So she would go to a Jamaican store, get the coconut, पायरीवर फोडायची. आणि then ती विळी असते ना ती किसायची ती, त्या विळीवरती किसायची. Yeah, that's what she used to do. आणि ती जेवण करायची मग.
Wow. So Riva, did you inherit a lot of recipes from your mother? I mean,
she loved to cook. And she definitely had, I think we always had those turmeric stained walls, right? Like you could. And at first, when I was growing up, and I thought, are these walls actually yellow? No, they are turmeric stained. Now it's the fashion to wear the turmeric masks and to wear the turmeric, to the milk and everything else. But it is definitely something that she used to cook a lot. And I also wanted to say that, when they came to the University of Indiana, which is where they came, they found a community. You know, they had people that they had come before them, and she just remembers it very fondly,
Good.
where she has so many, she made friends with other postdoc students and other like college age graduate students.
Mhm.
And they went on picnics, they went on concerts, you know, they did a lot of really fun community type of building and community items.
Wow, nice. I need see how it's a circle, right? If they were in Indiana and then Medha's daughter was in Indiana for her
She would have been happy.
so life always, you have these deflection points all the time, and sometimes it makes you think, like of all the states, like she had to choose, she went to Indiana for her college, but anyway. Um, okay, so coming from that, like after their postdoctoral, what did your parents decide to do? Like where did they move?
Yeah, they moved to Maryland, and my brother was born in Maryland. My dad was working at the NIH for a little bit.
Mhm.
And then my mom took some time off to raise her children. And she really wanted to be with her kids. She wanted to walk us to school and make our lunches and be there. And that's what I remember very clearly, that she was there when we came home from school, and she would, you know, have food ready, and she would study with us and make sure that we were on the straight and narrow, I guess, like doing pretty well. So she was that very hands-on mom.
Oh, okay. So your dad was in the NIH for some time, and then I know your mom started teaching in a high school also she started teaching chemistry. And I think that's how the conversation started with Medha when she said, oh, she was a high school chemistry teacher. And I was like, wow. And then Medha said, yeah, she had a PhD in biochem. And that's how, this whole conversation started actually from there, for me to think that even in India at that time, uh, when, even at that time to have a PhD at that time in the 60s must have been difficult from there, but it just shows her resiliency also that she finished it. Even like when even I was in college, my father was just waiting for me to finish college so that they can start looking for a boy. That's the natural order of things for people who are coming from India. But then, she finished her PhD. Did she want to do any more studying here? Has she ever said anything to you? Like, would she have wanted to do something else other than teach high school kids?
She loves
Teaching.
teaching. Like that is like her dream job. I asked her a few months ago, you know, would you want to do anything else besides just teach? And she was like, why would I want to do anything else? It's her dream job to teach, and she loves to teach. And she also used to tutor, where she was tutoring high school children as well.
Wow, wow. So
She used to do, sorry.
that's
She used
impressive,
to do
right?
SAT preps.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, she used to teach them. Yeah.
You must have heard from her students also, right? Like students might be meeting her also afterwards. Like, I know kids go to college, but they don't forget their teachers, not that easily. You still remember your favorite teacher or the teacher who gave you grief, things like that. So I'm pretty sure she had people reaching out back to her also. So I know the last year has been difficult for your mother, just because of the pandemic. And Medha was telling me, she said, and Medha cooks divinely. So I know Medha was taking her food. I remember Medha always used to say, "Oh, तिला हे आवडतं, तिला रव्याचे लाडू आवडतात, तर मी रव्याचे लाडू करून घेऊन जाते." So I remember all those stories. So after your dad passed away, like, she still decided to live by herself, right? Like almost till last year, she was pretty independent. Medha was always used to say that, "Ki ती एकटी राहते, सगळं करते." So Medha, can you talk about that, or Riva, like how hard did you try to convince her to come to your house, but she would not? So
Medha, go ahead.
Yeah, she was so independent. One incident I remember is, I think Riva, you were visiting us, and we had that SUV, and with the car, the child seat and everything in one of those middle benches. She had to go in the back seat. So we were trying to drop that seat for her to get into that. She opened the trunk and she jumped in from the trunk.
oh my God.
So it was like, wait. So that agile and that independent. No, I can do it. I can get in from there.
Okay, okay. And I know, like, finally, I think last year she fell, and that's one of the reasons that she had to move. How is she doing right now?
She's doing actually very well. One of the things that Medha and I have been doing are doing some FaceTime or Skype calls with her.
Okay.
And I think, and I'm going to pass the baton to Medha to talk about some of the calls, because just having, seeing all of these relatives on Skype calls has been such a blessing for her. It makes her feel really good. So I'm going to let Medha talk a little bit about some of those calls.
Okay, so recently I think they started doing these video calls, right? Yeah. So I spoke to my cousins in India and I said, I'm planning a video call with her. Would you all like to join? And it was at a decent time. It wasn't too late at night. So they all said, yes, we'll come. Then my one cousin in Goa, two cousins in Mumbai, and then the third one also in another part of Mumbai. They all jumped in and she was so happy. You would see that she was like, oh, he पण आहे, तो पण आहे, अरे हा पण आहे. Like it just was for her to see everybody at one time. I think it was more like being in the midst of them is I think what she was happy about. And then she was talking about, oh, ती आमच्याकडे कोळीण यायची. कोळीण is the fisherwoman, who would come to her mom's place because my mama's son was there and he was saying, oh, the कोळीण आली होती. So she, अरे आमची कोळीण यायची. It was just, she just down a trip down memory lane. I think that's what it was. So we are planning to do another one next end of this month, and more cousins and their daughter-in-laws and son-in-laws are going to be joining. So that will be fun.
It will be fun. No, that sounds fun. That sounds like a party. Okay. Another question for you, Riva. What, which quality of hers did you inherit? Like, what do you see in yourself of her?
I think it is the natural curiosity and literally that just keep going, strong work ethic.
Okay.
Because this is a woman that would get, and I clearly remember, like, she would get up so early, make sure that, our lunches were packed for school, and get on a bus and take two buses, sometimes three buses to work.
Okay.
And these were Baltimore City buses, so in the rain, in the snow, in all types of weather, she would take the bus to go to work. She would come home at 6 o'clock or so and immediately just start cooking and then and just do it all over again. And so it was just that work ethic that I saw her, that never say die kind of attitude. And she really instilled in myself and my brother that you have that quality of hard work, that you have to keep going.
Right, exactly. And I think that was just a given in that generation also. Like, you have to work hard for whatever you want, right? It was never given to you on a platter. You had to work hard, and we were always taught also that, outwork everybody else. I think that's kind of my motto also. I just try to, just try to keep working like a workhorse and try to outwork people. But Medha, आता तू सांग, तुला तुझ्या मावशीकडून after, like, I'm pretty sure when India मध्ये आणि इकडे आल्यानंतर you must have seen a little bit of a difference in your मावशी. What were you born at that time? Yes.
Yeah, I was 4 years old. So
So you
4 years
don't
old.
remember.
I don't remember the day
Okay.
she left. I was like 4.5, 5 years
Okay.
old. So
Okay.
that I don't remember. But all her trips back to India, I remember. She would stay with us. And she and my mother, they were very close. They are 2 years apart and they were very close. So they would always like hang out together, so to say. So it was always like she was, even I mean Riva's brother Vinay, they all would be at our house. So it was always fun. And one thing I always noticed about her, even when she went to India, confidence, so much confidence. She never second guessed herself about anything. I remember first time I saw her, she came to the, I think I took a bus, Riva, probably to Baltimore bus station from New York City. And she came to pick me from the bus station. She was wearing a sari.
Okay.
Sari, long blouse, that Indira Gandhi style blouse and case bandle and everything. And I said, wow, for her to be so confident in a sari and function, she would go to school, she would teach like that. So
Okay.
I asked her once, I said, oh, don't kids make fun of you? Because these are high school kids. So I
Yes.
said, do they make fun of you that you are in a weird like sari, which was not that common that time? She said, no, once I start teaching for them, I'm just a teacher.
Teacher. Yeah.
So they look past it, she said. Once they know you are their teacher and you're there to teach, it doesn't matter. So that kind of, be comfortable in your skin kind of a thing, that's what I really like. I mean, that's something that was the first thing I picked up about her. And her caring nature. Oh my God, she's so caring to my children, to everybody. Like Vinay Sati Sudha, she will say, Nana, Vinay likes fish, so I'm going to go get. Remember, Riva, she would go get blue fish. She would get that coconut from somewhere and
And
she would cook up
crabs.
a straw.
And crabs, remember?
Yeah, crabs. Yes,
Crabs.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Those are good
So
stories.
that's the thing about her. Yeah.
Yeah, and Riva, after the interview finishes, I hope you can show this to your mother also, and I will pass along any comments also that I get. But yeah, it's always fascinated me for people who have come here in the 60s, at a time uh, when even at that time, I think people were like, the Saat Samudra Olandun da and all that, but leaving your family at a time when you cannot communicate with them that instantly. You can only write like inland letters. Mala azun आठवतं मी 19
There-
मध्ये जेव्हा आले, I was still writing letters. My mother has kept all my letters also. आणि मलाही जे सगळे inland letters यायचे, cards यायचे, I have them. But for them also difficult to go back. Make sure you have enough money to buy a house, to make sure you have all these financial things. You have to have stability before you can do any of the rest, and then to get yourself included in a society which is so different. And at that time, other to Baltimore pan Riva, even Baltimore, if she was teaching in Baltimore high school, not a very progressive place also. So whatever Medha is saying, की त्या साडीमध्ये असायच्या आणि all, so hats off Medha, that is an incredible story. अजून like I know time's a constraint आहे, so any final thoughts, Medha, तुमच्या दोघांकडून, पण I want to go with you first, Medha.
Nothing. Now she's in the nursing home. I just spoke to her actually, and I told her, "Oh, I have a video conference with you tomorrow." She said, "अगं नको, त्या बाईचे पैसे कशाला तू त्याला पैसे भरते?" I said, "I'm not paying." So even now she's thinking like, don't spend money on these frivolous things, kind of. I said, no, nobody's paying. This is on the internet. It's all free. So don't worry about it. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Riva, what about you? I know I'm kind of hurrying you, but I know you have a time constraint. So any last thoughts about your mother? And hopefully, मला याचं वाटतं maybe one day I can come down to Virginia and see her. Really, to hear stories. But what about you? Like, what are what is something that you might want to say to your mother? I know she's not in front of us right now, but if she was, what will you say to her? Like, are you thankful she brought you in up in this country? uh, what is her legacy to you? What are you going to impart to your grandkids? I know your children have seen her very closely, because you were pretty close to her, and तुम्ही एकाच town मध्ये पण होता, right? Like you're pretty close. So what is her legacy to your future generation?
Yeah, thank you. That's such a great question. So I would say thank you. Thank you, because I am so grateful. I am grateful to her, but I am also grateful to all of the women who have even come before her, right? The grandmothers, the mothers, the women who have created us. And us, I mean like strong Indian women. And, I just have to share this story with you guys, is that, she always wanted to live independently, always, always, always wanted to live independently. And we tried to get her to live with us. And she said, no, I don't want to, I don't want to live with you guys. I own my own condominium. And she was very proud of that, of owning her own home and having her own space and driving up until she was in her 70s, and loved that independence, would go to the gym, would go to CVS, would do all of the things. And she fell, and she fell, and she had bad knees, and she fell. She was, I am not kidding you, on the floor for 3 days. No food, no water. She was on the floor for 3 days. And I had just talked to her like right before she fell. And then when I went to knock on her door, you could hear her sort of yelling, saying, come, help me, help me. So we came in, and the first thing she said was, get me up. And I called the ambulance, and she unfortunately had had a stroke and fallen. And she said, she's such a strong woman. She said, I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want them to go, I don't want them to take me away. You just put me back up on my couch. I will be fine. And, then make me some tea. So it was one of those situations that for me, just myself, if I was laying on the floor for 3 days, I would give up. I would just give up and say, let me go. It is my time. But it is that strength, I think, of women, and especially Indian women, where they are such strong creatures, that they are such strong, resilient beings, that they just carry on no matter what. No food, no water. It's that strong will to live. And I think it's pretty amazing. I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. But I'm glad to hear she's doing good and she's thriving in the nursing home. I think once they are there, they realize the benefits of the nursing home and what they are getting, rather than when they are at home alone. Medha, do you want to add anything to that? Otherwise, I'll end.
No, just that she really is a strong woman. And initially, she had this thing when she fell and she was in rehab and everything. I want to go home. I want to go home. I don't want to be here. I want to go home. So even when she started staying at the nursing home, I remember she said, "No, no, मी आता घरी जाणार. मी आता घर." It's like literally that was like a stopgap thing for her. She kept on saying that. मी घरी जाणार. मी काय इकडे राहणार नाही का? इकडे कोण राहणार? मी घरी जाते. I said, okay, bari ho, mag ghari ja, bari ho, ghari ja. So then later on with COVID, and then she realized she has to be here. She realized that she's better off here. How would she have managed otherwise? And she turned around and she said, "बरं आहे ग मी इकडे, नाही तर कसं झालं असतं माझं." So for somebody to do that 180 and be like, you know what? I accept it. This is good for me. I was happy about that. That it's not just, I don't want to do it and I'm going to be miserable here and make everyone miserable. No, she didn't take that route.
Okay. So thank you, both of you. So again, just to recap, we have Riva Kamat with us. So Riva's mother, Dr. Priya Kamat, that's whom we were talking about. And Medha is Dr. Priya Kamat's niece. So Dr. Priya Kamat is currently in a nursing home in Virginia. She's doing pretty well. Uh, the reason we wanted to talk about her today was she was one of the people who emigrated in the 60s with a PhD in biochemistry and made a beautiful life here for herself, her family, and her future generations. Looking for, and even, that perspective of going to a new continent or country to make a, better life for yourself. Even तेव्हा तेवढं दूरदर्शी होऊन विचार करायचा की it's going to help my family in the end. Not only me, my husband, the kids, but the immediate family also. So Riva, thank you. Ani Medha Tulapan, thank you for sharing stories. And this is for International Women's Day. So thank you for sharing the story of a very strong woman. I will pass on the recording to you, Riva. So thank you for doing this interview with us today. Thank you.
You.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Bye. So,
Bye.
Bye.